Hello and welcome to the Redenbacher. You've been granted permission to board this glorious vessel on its maiden voyage. I'm your co-host Matt Murphy, joined by Commander Ben Billerell. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for that introduction. It's great to be here. We're new officers aboard the Redenbacher here. It's so exciting. I just can't wait to begin this journey with you. We're receiving transmissions with episodes of the Orville, and we're going to talk about them when we're not on duty. So
Yeah, I can't wait. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Today we received a transmission for season 2, episode 4 of the Orville called "Nothing Left on Earth Except Accepting Fishes," and it was a good one.
hmm What an interesting title that is, hey? Nothing left on Earth excepting fishes. We'll get into that later. We're gonna, I guess, pretty much start with like a brief synopsis of the episode, just so we're hoping that everyone has seen the episode by this point.
We're gonna assume you did. We'll be spoiling it in depth.
Yeah, that's a good thing to shout out right now. If you've
Yeah.
not seen the episode, please just put this on pause. Please come back. But please put this on pause. Watch the
The
episode.
best thing you can do for us other than listening is watching the show and supporting it because we'd love for it to get a season 3.
Absolutely, guys. I remember when season 1 was finished, and we weren't really sure at that point if we were getting a confirmed season 2 or not. And it left me with a great deal of anxiety. Many nights I lied awake. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
for
you did
sure.
as well, Matt.
Oh yeah. I had faith. I had faith. Seth MacFarlane and Fox are pretty tight, so I had hoped that they would get renewed. But season 3 could very well be in jeopardy. We don't know. I don't know what the ratings are like this year, but hey, if you like it, if you like the podcast, watch the show.
Yeah, it's the best
legally.
means legally, of course. Yes, please.
Yeah,
Pirating's huge, but please, guys, it's the only means of really showing support to the
for
producers and to the
sure.
writers. Please
For
go
sure.
out, watch the show. If you like it, I mean, hell, like buy the DVDs. There's phenomenal merchandise over at Fox's website. You can check out. There's great T-shirts, mugs. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I'm going to be getting myself some. Uh,
Like the clips on YouTube, whatever. Every small thing counts when it comes to fan integration and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
this episode was written by Brandon Braga and Andrew Bormanis. I'm going to keep an eye out for these guys in the credits next time because I think they did a great job.
Absolutely. This is some of the best writing, I think, in my opinion. I'm sure you'd agree with me.
Yeah,
I would say this is some of the best writing we've seen from the Orville.
for
Like
sure.
these past couple episodes have just they've been on point, and I just really hope that that is a standard set because I mean the reviews are great. Like I've seen reviews for this episode. People are just man, they really are reacting to it well, and that's phenomenal. That's
The
what
reviews
we
I've
want.
read, there's some critics on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that that kind of trash the show, but the fan response has been pretty good. I think overall, like the people that watch the show love the show.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've not really looked into the Rotten Tomatoes reviews. I remember you mentioned this to me
Yeah,
earlier that it was kind of hit and miss, but obviously the show it's not for everyone. Nothing is for everyone. So there's going to be people that like it, people that don't like it. But I mean, hey, we're hoping that you're on the same
yeah,
side as we are. We love the Orville.
yeah.
Chances are, if you're tuning in, you do as well.
A
So
lot of critic reviews just break it down to like this works, this is flawed, right? This is flawed, this is flawed. But the sum of the parts are greater than the whole, or the reverse of that, probably. What I tried to say. I enjoyed it. So let's get into this episode.
So the general overview of this episode, we have our romantic getaway between Captain Ed and Lieutenant Tyler, and our B plot is following Gordon and his struggle to become maybe more than what he currently is.
Yeah,
Yeah. So in A plot, Janelle and Captain Ed, they're dating as we find out, which is great for Ed. He's finally back on his feet, sort of thing. They've been participating. They've been having movie nights and doing this and that.
but the crew
So
doesn't know at this point.
absolutely, it's kind of low key on this point. I remember Ed mentions that he's kind of nervous to see how some people in the crew might react and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Um, but yeah, they're enjoying The King and I. They're sharing a movie night together when Lieutenant Tyler suggests that they, become public. They kind of maybe should get away. Captain Ed's been working a lot of hours and he hasn't had, like shore leave for quite some time. So they
yeah.
want
Since
to
he took
have a
command of the
getaway.
ship.
hmm So, what we do find out though is after being granted permission, well, not necessarily granted permission. I mean, she agrees to do
She
the
agrees to take full command of the ship and take care of
Mhm.
it while Ed's gone.
Yeah. So with that off Ed's mind, he agrees and he tells Janelle that they're gonna go. They plan a getaway for Solaris 2, I believe.
Yep.
And they run into some complications along the way. Matt, do you want to dive into said complications?
Yeah, for sure. So they run into three Krill vessels that fly overhead and use drive plasma to unveil their position after they enter cloak. And it was at first I thought, well, why would they? How would they know where they are that they're there and to do that? But it's revealed later on how they would do that. So they're intercepted by the Krill vessel, and Janelle and Ed are separated, and Janelle is tortured on screen in front of Ed in an attempt to get defense codes or some kind of ship code so that they would have access to the ship or know their war strategies and stuff like that. And then they use a prod, like basically a intergalactic cattle prod, to torture Janelle, and they say that humans can take up to level 8, and they're using level 6 on her, and it's rising. So that's almost an indication that something's not quite right. It's then revealed that after Ed does give the launch codes, it's revealed that Janelle Tyler is actually a Krill. She's undergone a procedure to turn into a human and infiltrate the Union, which, is kind of a taste of their own medicine, because Ed did this earlier on in season 1, and you kind of forgot about it, and then the Krill obviously didn't. They were planning their revenge, and they extracted it thusly.
Yeah, this is true. There's actually a section in the episode when Talea, after revealing her true identity, she also reveals to Ed her intentions and why this was done. So we do know that the Krill, their superiors, have initiated a mission to try and capture a Union captain for for intel, of course.
Yeah.
So we understand that Talea actually accepted this mission personally to seek out Captain Ed for revenge, because his actions led to the death of her brother and some of her crewmates in the first season.
Yeah, exactly. The process she undergoes to transform into a human is called transcellular micrografting, which is a kind of a fun name to say, and I couldn't remember it if I got it tattooed on my forehead. It's a cool procedure, and it actually echoes something done in Star Trek Discovery. A character even has the exact same name. Not to spoil it, but if you're watching the Orville, I think you're very much aware of Star Trek Discovery, and we might cover it in the future. But right now, we'd like to focus on the Orville, because I think it's doing a great job, and I'm really enjoying every minute of it.
I would agree. I've not seen much of Discovery. I do plan to dive deep into it. I am quite a large Star Trek fan, and this is just part of the fandom that I haven't really touched much upon yet, and I will explore it, and we might, reference it here and there and stuff, or who knows if there's a demand for it? Who knows? We could end up talking about that sometime as well.
For sure. So when it's revealed that Janelle Tyler is actually Talea this entire time, I thought it was a really fun twist, and I like how it was immediate. Like, I know there can be complaints that they only had a little bit of time on screen. I think she was only in one episode before this. Mm-hmm. But I still like the snappiness of it. Like, you can tell by how happy Seth is and how Ed Mercer is and how giddy he is that, he's fallen head over heels for this girl. And he makes a couple mistakes on the way just because he just wants to spend time with his girlfriend. And
absolutely.
It shows just how well Talea was able to adapt to being a human and then also tap into their weaknesses and exploit them.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at Captain Ed, I mean, wow, like, he's been through divorce, he's been through this, he's in a vulnerable state right now. And
he's never going to trust a partner again. I mean,
no, he's going to be in therapy for.
It's been a bad stretch where Drulio kind of convinced his wife to cheat on him against her will, and then Drulio slept with him against his will, and now his girlfriend is a Krill. So it's a rough go. I would just take myself off the market if I was at it.
Yeah, I would pretty much pack my bags and just kind of I don't know, have a focus that's outside of romantic relations or something.
Yeah, for sure.
A poor guy. We could all feel for Ed. Like, I'm sure this is a very human thing that we all experience. Mistrust or deceit. But man, never to such a cynical what a level of deceit that is.
I really like the reaction shot on Ed Mercer's face when he finds out that she's gone, that Janelle is gone, and she's been Talea this whole time. Like, you can see the gears working in his mind as he tries to think about it. Like, imagine being told that. Like, the person
I know it's. Yeah. Wow, it's incredibly overwhelming. Something that I noticed when I was watching through it was I thought like, okay, so when she did this transcellular micrografting, when she underwent that procedure, I mean, obviously we didn't see it. We don't because that would reveal a huge part of the plot.
Yeah.
However, when she is, when Janelle is in captivity, there being tortured, and she comes back. I don't know how much time passes between these two events, but it doesn't seem like a lot of time to
No.
change someone's physical. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Obviously, I lack the knowledge of this technology and how it really works. But yeah, like that just really it contributes to the shock value. Like you
I
think
think
about,
it's probably like getting a tattoo removed or something like that. Like I don't know, they might use lasers or put you in like some kind of machine they use for X-rays or something like that. Just vibrate the cells and change their makeup.
hmm. So anyway, we'll continue with the plot here. So after Janelle kind of reveals that she's actually Talea this whole time,
There's
and
not much time to react
no, there's not. But
because
then space orcs. So the Krill vessel is attacked and then boarded by an alien race called the Shocktall. I refer to them as space orcs. If you've seen the episode, you'll understand why. Um,
they kind of look like sea monsters to me. They say nothing left on Earth excepting fishes. I mean, these guys would be in the water swimming with the fishes and eating them up because they look a lot like old school like 60s swamp monsters, and I really like that about their design.
I think it's a brilliant. I think it's a brilliant like aesthetic look for them because so often I'm going to make a comparison to Star Trek. We see these like strange species, these strange races from different planets, and we're like,
Yeah.
wow, it's so like phenomenal that the actual like designers and like the people working on these sets doing makeup and special effects and everything like that. It's like it's quite interesting to see what they're like able to come up with. Definitely a great example.
I'm not
You
an
know,
expert in this, but it looks like a lot of it is like practical effects on the aliens, and I like that because we're so used to CGI. It's nice to see something that's really there that you feel like you could feel it and it would be there.
yeah, it's a nice throwback because if you look at like like the original series and like just like countless spin-off series and stuff, there's never been a lot of computer generated effects. Like it's pretty
Mhm.
much just I mean there are, but like back in like the 60s and 70s and stuff like that, it's kind of
Yeah,
yeah.
it's far out. We're so used to CGI now; it's become the predominant means of special effect. But I think that you look at Walking Dead, the things that they can do with practical effects, like it's amazing. When they do CGI, it's usually kind of shitty, actually.
Although that's
So
not to say because the Orville does have some beautiful special effects and some beautiful cinematics. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah,
But anyway.
I like the planets and I like the ships. It's not the best CGI I've ever seen, but the storytelling and stuff like that, like the original Star Trek didn't have amazing special effects and stuff. It was about the ideas and the characters.
This is right. So, so yeah, the Krill ship is attacked and boarded by the Shocktall, as we said, and we later find out that they're quite a brutal race. By word of mouth, Talea says to
Yeah.
Ed. However, we really see it when they board the Krill vessel. Like they are shooting people point blank with like some kind of phaser rifle.
Yeah, they're shooting to kill, but if they accidentally injure them, they're going to make sure they actually do kill them if they can.
Absolutely, leave no survivors apparently.
Yeah,
Yeah, so at this point, their vessels being boarded, like the Krill are being like shot down like flies, like it's quite horrific.
yeah.
At this point, yeah, Talea has to make a pretty big decision. She has to get out of there, and if she's going to fulfill her mission, she has to return Captain Ed to the Krill.
Ed pulls a gun on her and says, "Where's your shuttle bay?" And they try to get where your escape pods tries to get it as quickly as possible. And at this point, the enemy of my enemy is my friend because you have to find a way to get out of here somehow. It's better to get out with your enemy than for you to both die on this Krill ship.
Absolutely. In a situation of life or death, like you have to put your differences aside, no matter how hard it may be for a certain party. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, when it comes down to survival, it's like we really realize, what's significant and like what needs to be done. And yeah, Talea responded well, and they got out of there in the nick of time.
They board a Krill's escape pod, and I like the way it's programmed to go to the closest habitable planet and to go to the night side because we learn in this episode, and I think we might have already known it, but it's referred to again that the Krill have a weakness to light, so it makes sense their ships would go to the night side of the planet first, so they could get acclimated and find a place to hide when it does get when the daylight does reach them.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Just super, super interesting. Yeah, we do know about the light sensitivity based on season 1, I remember. I
Yeah,
don't remember very clearly, but yes. And that's an interesting part about the medical procedure that she had undergone. It made her her skin much less
Vulnerable to light.
vulnerable
Yeah,
to light. Yeah, and exactly.
that's cool. I
Um,
forgot about that. That's cool.
yeah, I thought it was a neat one.
So they crash land on this planet, and he's landed on the ground. He got the worst end of the crash, I think, and Talea pulls a gun on him, and it's a hostage situation. It's the reverse of what we saw on the ship now, or the reverse of what we saw during their escape from the ship, I should say.
Hmm. Once they land and Ed regains consciousness, yeah, Talea holds Ed at gunpoint. So yeah, at this point, Talea is holding Ed at gunpoint, and she tells him that she was not able to get the distress signal off due to interferences from the magnetic ore in the valley which they landed. Um, so yeah, so this is like, they've got to seek higher ground, and this is like a strange planet they've never been to. It's the closest, oxygen-rich
It's
atmosphere,
very
but
Star Trek at this
it's
point,
very
very old
unknown.
school Trek.
Yeah, this is when it comes back to some like really awesome Star Trek roots, and this is when the episode gets, I mean, even better, like just so
Yeah.
good.
The two exchange a lot of banter about Rares of the Lost Ark, and Ed tries to see if there's any bit of Janelle Tyler left inside Talea.
Hmm.
Which you would. If you lost somebody that you were in love with and you heard they're not dead, they're just, transformed to a different person, you would see if that person you remember is still in there.
Absolutely, yeah. It would be very hard to lose someone like so immediately, right? And especially when you're knowing that this person was kind of acting as that person. An actor often draws influence and like inspiration from to the character
Yeah.
with like real events. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's phenomenal acting, but yeah, like Captain Ed is digging. He's unable to kind of accept that there's no part of Janelle within Talea.
Yeah.
This is a hard thing. We as humans, irreversible loss is very scary to us, and this is a wow. This is like a
Yeah. It's a
this
really
is a
smart
big
move by
loss.
yeah, it's a smart move by Talea because they know that there are a lot of times humans' hearts override their thinking. So
This is something we see in Star Trek a lot.
yeah,
I mean, logic and emotions. It's like an ongoing battle, right? So,
yeah, for sure. And I think that you need a balance of both, like a lot of things. So the two end up in a cave after a lot of banter, and
hmm
it's old school Trek. They have a big debate about Avis, their the god or whatever, or like the one they
hmm
worship.
It's the
Uh,
Krill god Avis. Yeah. So we're taught. We get a little bit of insight into their religion here. So yeah, they do talk about Avis. There's a um, sorry. At this point, yeah, Captain Ed is discussing common ground. He's trying to just kind of put their differences aside between the Krill and the Union.
he mentions
Um,
that these are myths that she's following, and Talea
uh-huh.
has a really strong line saying, "Who are you to lecture me about myths? You fell in love with a person who doesn't even exist." I love that line, and it's so cutting and stuff. Like, are you saying that I'm crazy because of what I believe in? You fell in love with a fiction, basically. You fell in love with a lie. That's
Absolutely. But in another light, like this can kind of prove true to Talea's beliefs, because Ed's beliefs, as far as we know, if we're like to understand something as truth, this could be an individual's identity or this could be a religion. So this kind of also works on the level with Talea, in the same sense of like if Ed believed that this was so real, then why couldn't her religion also kind of hold that same kind of
yeah.
yeah, like maybe if Ed's
There,
questioning what he thinks is
yeah.
true, maybe Talea should also be willing to kind of bend her belief.
In a lot of ways, love is almost like blind faith, where you want to see the best in this thing and ignore the bad parts of it. So you go into it full heartedly, and there could be a lot of parallels.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a big leap of faith, either situation.
Yeah. So when they land, it's nighttime, and it's still nighttime for a considerable time. Eventually, the next time we see them, daylight hits, and they reveal that the day cycle on that planet lasts for 23 Earth days.
Yeah, Captain Ed is charting the sky and he's saying that the sun is moving at such a slow degree that they don't have time. They only have rations for 3 days, and there's really no way that they're going to be able to wait it out.
Yeah,
And
it's
at
one of
this
the worst
point,
things you can hear as a krill when your weakness is sunlight, and it's going to be straight sunlight for 23 days, and you will have no way of escaping it. So she's at the mercy of Ed now.
yeah, I think their escape pods might need a little bit of reprogramming to consider how long the days and the nights are,
Yeah,
not
that's
just
true.
if it's
That's
a
true.
inhabitable planet, but if it's, preferred to their their
Yeah,
living conditions.
yeah. If their day cycles like are the right length, otherwise, yeah. That's I didn't think about that. That's cool.
Yeah, this is something that just came to me now, actually.
Yeah, so they know that the shock tunnel will be coming really soon, so they want to get communication with the Krill vessel as soon as possible. So Ed has to go and put the communicator up on top of this tall mountain, old school Star Trek style. Captain Kirk is climbing a
hmm
mountain, but it's Captain Ed.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, all right. Yeah. So, at this point, after we get that beautiful, super epic mountain scenery, Captain Ed does get to the top of the mountain, and he sets up his distress beacon, sends a transmission. At which time, Bortus picks it up on the Orville, and they go at maximum speed to go try and save them. At this point, we pan back to Ed, and oh man, he's got company. He has four Choctaw soldiers following him. He
Yeah,
returns to the cave and he tries to explain the situation to Talea.
yeah, and they realize that they probably have to get out there and get going quick. Talia, whether she wants to or not, it's either trust Ed or die on this planet, realistically. And early on in the episode, we saw when they were watching the movie, Ed and Janelle, he wrapped her up in his jacket. What's cool about this scene is at the beginning of the episode, Ed Mercer, when he was on a date watching The King and I with Janelle, he puts his jacket over her when she's cold to warm her up. And it was because of the environmental conditions of the room. Now the environmental conditions are a lot more extreme, and so is the situation. And Talia needs to be wrapped up in Ed's jacket to prevent the sunlight from burning her alive, which is I thought was a cool mirroring of the beginning and near the end of the episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like it's like a great thing to see again because in this moment, obviously when we see it in the first scene there when they're doing the movie night, they're very close, like they're in a relationship, blah 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 blah, and then you see it again, and again it kind of resonates those same things where it's like not necessarily a relationship, obviously, like they're in a very big disagreement. There's lots of
Yeah,
mistrust, but at the same time, in that moment, we've been through a lot. Like, you can trust me. Like, please, this is the only way. And again, he cloaks her or comforts her in some means
yeah.
with this jacket, and it kind of rings true there. I love that. I love that point. Yeah.
I like it as so much stuff has happened throughout, I guess maybe a day, 2 days, but realistically, I mean, it's not all that different. I mean, in their situation where it's those two against the world. Yeah, so they make it back to the top of the cliff to get picked up by what Talea believes is a Krill vessel, but she finds out that Ed actually called the Orville and summoned down a shuttle of one of his own people, which she hates and puts a gun on Ed and threatens to shoot him.
This is true. At this point, she says something along the lines of like, "I refuse to be taken prisoner." You know what I mean? But then she doesn't really have much choice. The Choctaw are scaling the mountain and they're opening fire on the two. At this point, Gordon and Bortus, they're still trying to land the shuttle. So again, she has to take a leap of faith in Captain Ed, and she
Yeah.
gives him her firearm. And I mean, again, this trust has proven beneficial to the two of them because it got them away.
Yeah, it shows that two different people can trust each other and get along for the greater good, which I think is the overall leading to a greater story arc between the Krill and the humans. Eventually, Ed fires off a few shots, manages to hit one of the guys and deter them enough for the shuttle to come down and pick them up.
Yeah, it's great. They get out. They make it. They make it safe and sound. They get back to the Orville, and things take an unexpected turn here.
Yeah, Talia is put in prison, much like she feared. However, Ed marches down to the brig or whatever part of the Orville, whatever this area is called, and Kelly's talking to him, saying, "What are you doing?" Because it seems like he's intending to release her, and she tells him all the negatives of doing what he's doing. I mean, this is a big no-no as far as the Union goes. Like, you're not supposed to release prisoners of war or people that have committed serious crimes against the Union.
Absolutely.
But Ed's heart is on his sleeve, and he's gonna do what he wants to do.
Yeah, I believe like Commander Kelly actually tells Ed that he like his actions, like what he's doing in deciding to release Talea, he risks court-martial. So this is a very big ethical decision for Captain Ed. His career is literally on the line when he makes this decision. He understands the risk that's involved, and he just follows his heart. He knows that ethically, like, yeah,
Logically, no, don't do it. But he's thinking, I know this person, And I think he knows long term that like we have someone that's on the Krill that has a good view of humans. Like she would have a positive view, even though it is revealed that Ed was responsible for getting her brother killed. I think we might have already known that. But
Hmm.
personally, she should want to kill Ed, and what she does to Ed, Ed should want to keep her as a prisoner, or Ed shouldn't want to
Yeah.
release her. Ed shouldn't do that. But by releasing her, he shows mercy and that humans and Krill don't have to be at each other's throats all the time.
Absolutely, like in his actions of deciding to release her, like against all like logical reasoning, really.
Yeah.
Um, because like yeah, like it's just a matter of he's shown her nothing but mercy. Like he's put himself in danger's way to protect her, and I mean, hopefully she can return to her people with maybe not quite a fixed opinion about humanity and potentially other races as well, because we know that they're quite a xenophobic race.
Yeah.
Once they develop space travel, some of their teachings from their religious text,
Ed talks about
they
how when you choose space travel, you learn that you're not the only ones out there. You get more aggressive to try to prove that you are the
exactly. You
superior.
can either try and reinstate your beliefs, or you can adapt to kind of newfound information.
Exactly.
And we're really hoping that the Krill and the Union, maybe they can put their differences aside. We don't expect this to be like an overnight thing, but especially now with this
Start.
new threat from the Shock Tall, I mean, this could be another cave situation where we have to put our differences aside just for
Exactly.
survival's sake, right?
Exactly. So when Ed reveals to Leia that she should call her people and they can pick her up, she's pretty shocked. She thought for sure she would be spending the rest of her life in there, or at least a considerable amount of time. So that shock on her face, she still thinks she knows this person has every right to lock me up. Why would the humans do this after I've done this to them? But he shows her mercy, and they have the other shuttle come and pick her up. I like this scene where they show the unity between the two species, whether it's superficial or not. You have the shuttle fly in the shuttle bay right next to a Union shuttle and a Krill shuttle side by side, showing, hey, I mean, we're at war. Our people, whether unofficially or not, our people can get along.
Hmm.
Even if it's just for a couple minutes for one interaction.
Yeah, it's true. It's a very powerful scene when the Krill vessel, or Krill shuttle pod rather, comes in to like the Orville's loading bay there. Um, yeah, I'm with you, Matt. It's a strong message. It's like, if we can meet here today and, we're giving you like one of your people back unharmed, unscathed, like we treated her the best we could. Yeah, like, it's a pretty big symbol of like of peace, hopefully.
Yeah, and as Talia goes back to her ship, they share some words, and Ed says to her, "You can please tell your people, we can keep fighting or we can talk."
Hmm.
Which, whether she'll bring that to them or not, either way, I'm sure those words will be echoing in her mind. Ed also gives her a chip with the greatest hits of Billy Joel, which is kind of cool. Billy Joel is in a lot of the episode actually, and as the ship flies away, we get she's always a woman to me. I think that's the name of the song.
Yep, I believe
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah, and it's a banger of a tune. And actually, I'm sure when Billy wrote it, he thought it would actually go in a futuristic Star Trek parody about the relationship between Krill and human. But it fits surprisingly well. It's a really powerful moment in the series.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's quite a moving moment. Yeah, he gives her the chip, and she holds a eye contact with him for a moment. She turns around, she leaves, she gets back on her vessel. When that Billy Joel breaks out, oh my God, like the waterworks just turned on, buddy. Like I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
that's two
Uh,
pretty sad endings. Although it's more of an uplifting this time
yeah,
than last week's.
it's kind of it leaves us with a sense of hope, and it's very emotional and moving. It's very powerful.
Yeah, so that's it for the A plot for now. We'll get talk about more of the nitty gritty later on, but let's talk about Gordon Malloy's exploits on this week's episode.
Hmm. So our beloved pilot Gordon, what a wonderful guy he is. So Gordon has decided that maybe he's seeking a little bit more. Maybe he hasn't really done as much as he could accomplish with his career, and he's looking to take a command test. He'd very much like to be considered to be in command of a vessel one day.
Yeah, earlier on in the episode, Ed reveals to him that he's dating Janelle Tyler, and he says that they're aware that Gordon kind of had a thing for her as well, so he's realizing that okay, well that's not going to work out. And later on, it's revealed that Gordon just wants to meet chicks, so that's a good impetus for that. He's like, "Wow, I got to think of a new a new move." So he wants to become captain, and it's not for the right reason, realistically. On the surface, he looks like he just wants to be the captain just for the social status of it.
Hmm. Yeah, it does seem that way for sure. I mean, you see in the scene where he's in the mess hall eating with that with another officer on board. He's talking to her about the command test, and he's seeming pretty confident for our kind of bashful
Yeah,
pilot. And he does mention, like at the end, he says something along the lines of, "How would you like to go out for a drink or something with the future captain?" And Commander Kelly got wind of that, and that's why she actually asked him, like,
yeah.
Gordon, do you think you're doing this for the right reason, or do you think your interest may be for yourself and not for other people?
Yeah,
Um,
which is not good. As a captain, you have to look out for everyone. When you're just thinking about
Absolutely.
yourself, that's not a good starting point for being a captain.
No, you're right. Yeah, a captain. I mean, to be a captain, like, yeah, you
You have
kind
to
of have
go
to put
above and
yourself
beyond.
last. Yeah, like it's all about the well-being of your crew. Um, and yeah, you kind of have to put yourself at risk more often than not. It's a lot of sacrifice. And I mean, if you're, looking to get into command in the first place because of like maybe social status or
Yeah,
interest in your colleagues, well, I
it's not
mean,
the
then
right
you really have
reason.
to take a step back and yeah, you have to consider like why.
Yeah,
Although like
exactly.
Commander Kelly does point this out to Gordon, and Gordon his little rebuttal to this is actually quite heartfelt, if I do say so myself. Gordon expresses, he's like, I'm a pilot. I'm a good pilot. I have 56,000 light years under my belt. But after you're good at something, that's all they really expect you to do. And there's a very moving quote here, and
Yeah,
he talks to Commander Kelly, and he says, he goes, if you're not good enough for yourself, like if you're not satisfied with yourself, then how can you ever be good enough for someone else? And I think that's something that we've all felt, like, where you might not feel like you've maybe lived up to potential and you feel remorse.
definitely.
Um, but
It's a
Commander,
positive message in like a negative shell where it's like work on yourself. If you're feeling like you're not where you want to be in life, just do the little things to work on yourself. When you as long as
mhm.
you're improving, you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, it's like I'm very much of the opinion that someone isn't defined by what they do necessarily, but
Yeah,
like who they are and like what they think and like what they uphold as like right and things like that. So I mean, if Gordon's feeling a little subpar because I mean he's a phenomenal pilot, but like if he wanted more out of his life or if he's not satisfied with who he is, then I mean, yeah,
yeah, work on it. Work on yourself, or just do things to improve your life. And yeah, it's a positive message. I like that. Be the best you can be. I mean, they didn't really say it in that way, but
hmm
if you're trying to get a change in life, you have to change yourself first.
And what I really liked about this is after Gordon expresses his kind of, I guess, his doubts in himself to Commander Kelly, and she really does compliment him on his character,
She
not
tries to raise
only
his
his
spirits.
occupation, but yeah, yeah. And you can see that this kind of does speak to him later, because in the episode when they're going down to pick up Talea and Ed, Bortus expresses his doubts about the landing. He's like, "There's
Yeah,
nowhere to land. It's blah blah blah." And there's a real sense of pride in this moment when Gordon says like something along. He's like, "Don't worry about it." He's like, "I'm a pilot." So maybe he does feel a bit better about himself after Commander Kelly's kind of
yeah,
given him that reassurance in who he is as an individual is fantastic.
yeah, for sure. So he does take like a command test, which is the Orbital's version of the Kobayashi Maru. And it starts off with a mental exam with a kind of Rorschach test, a digital one where they have like cubes all arranged in this way, and like they're like holograms of cubes or something like that. And it was a nice little scene where it's like, oh, what do you see? He's like, oh, why would you show me that? And stuff like that. He has like these reactions. So it's really just like it shows his mind, what he's seeing and what he's
Yeah, you get some insight into into Gordon's character, and it's quite funny. Yeah, when they're doing like the visual association test, he seems to be extremely disturbed by all the things he sees.
yeah,
Whereas like yeah, our medical officer Finn, she's just like, oh my gosh, like what are you seeing? One of my favorite quotes from that section is Gordon, and he goes, oh my God, like who makes these things? This is a hostile work environment.
Yeah,
And he proceeds to ask for water, which I thought was really funny because
yeah.
he just feels very uncomfortable in the moment. And
He's got no one to blame but himself for whatever images are coming there. It's really just cubes and stuff
absolutely,
like
yeah.
that. But I think it's kind of funny. It shows that maybe mentally he's scattered all over the place and might not be in the right mental state to go and try to become commander or captain.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, his testing in the commander role kind of continues, and he gets a simulated diplomatic kind of objective.
Yeah.
It's
And
quite
this scene was
funny.
right after the commercial break, so we're meant to think that they're engaging the Krill. They're actually
Yeah,
engaging.
absolutely. It kind of leaves you at a moment of shock. You're like, wait a minute, what? And we do see this happen in Star Trek quite a bit. So I
Yeah.
actually very much like that,
Yeah.
where yeah, the holodeck is kind of used to
Yeah.
deceive the viewer for a moment, and you're like, oh my God, like Gordon's like he's commanding the Orville right now.
Yeah.
Like,
If you
wow,
kept
he's
an eye
trying
out,
to.
yeah, if you were following closely, like you knew he'd take the command test, and like the bridge crew is a little bit different than the one we're used to. So
There are some
that,
telltales there. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah, I like that. There's the same thing with the krill and the cattle prod. Like when they said it's good, we can take up to 8, a human can take up to whatever. Like they mentioned the human, like they throw it out there that there's human and there's a different,
That's
So
right, and you can tell because like it's interesting because they don't ever use it on Ed, so it's kind of like that they mention that it
yeah.
reacts to human. I don't know.
No, it was cool. I like the foreshadowing and like light hinting that you can on a second viewing this episode really pays off. Like I had a good time rewatching it.
Absolutely. I mean, the more you watch this episode, there's like the more layers of complexity keep coming up, and I mean, like flipping through my notes and everything, I'm really hoping I'm like highlighting like some of the ones that I mean, there's so much. I'm hoping I'm getting some
Yeah,
of the big ones that you guys have picked up on as well.
yeah. If you watched the episode and maybe weren't high on it, I hope that us reflecting on the episode and pointing out these elements might have enhanced your enjoyment of the episode. And then we've done our job if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to, preach to the choir, I guess. If you guys love it, I mean, that's what
Yeah.
we're hoping for.
So Gordon doesn't pass the commander test or the captain test, does he? I don't think it's. I
No,
think it's
I
implied that he
don't think
doesn't
so. Yeah, I
outright
think it's
say.
implied he doesn't. However, in that moment, I absolutely love it when he's doing the diplomatic conversation with like the Krill vessel,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's a quote here, and he's like, "Oh, you wouldn't want to do that," and he's like, "We've got," he's really thinking on the fly here, which is later confirmed by Commander Kelly is a great trait for a captain to
Yeah.
have, but he just didn't really go about the execution so well. I will quote him here. He says, sorry, yeah. He goes, yeah, you probably wouldn't want to do that. We've got some new crazy new reflector. Well, maybe not, but we have heart, a lot of heart,
Yeah.
passion. So watch out.
The
Um,
the part with the
uh,
reflector reminds me of another Seth MacFarlane property where Adam West has a gun pulled on him, Mayor Adam West, and he goes, "You can shoot me, but I've got a tiny bulletproof shield somewhere on my body, and if you hit it, you'll be sorry," or something along those lines. It's kind of similar, like he's just straight up like lying to you, but I don't know, he's putting that seed of doubt in your mind.
mhm,
And I like the "we have heart" thing. It's
mhm.
very similar. Like Ed has been showing his heart all episode as a captain. It's important to have heart, but not to just say, "Well, we've got heart." You have to show you've got heart instead of just right out saying it. It's not just heart. It's you need strategy and common sense and stuff like that.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
After the mission to go and retrieve Ed, we see that they're getting a transmission, and Kelly and Gordon are having a moment where she says, "See, that's what a captain does." And do you think he can do that? And Gordon says nothing. He just has like a look of like, "Yeah, you know what? I think I can." Like he's thinking, and he's finally getting it that there's more to being a captain than just the status that you have.
Yeah, it's true. It's like Gordon is like, he seems a little perplexed into Captain Mercer's reasoning. And then Commander Kelly just, yeah, she's like, well, what the Admiral decides, it's like it depends, like if they see value in his decisions or not. And Gordon's like, well, but like, this woman, like Talea wanted him dead. Like, why would he do this for her? And then that's when she goes like, well, Gordon, that's command.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, so it's like, it's pretty big. It's a pretty crazy moment there.
Yeah, so I like that moment. A lot of facial acting in this episode. Not you don't need to say it all. You can just show it in the reaction of the actors. That's the craft of the actor is to just get across a feeling or a thought with just your face, and it was well done.
Absolutely. There's a lot of great body language in this, and like they convey a lot of emotion just through, subtle facial expressions and like reactions. And it really does illustrate like what language often
Yeah,
cannot.
yeah, for sure. Like 80% of our communication is just body language. It's nonverbal. So I thought that was really powerful. That the episode ended super strong with that, and then the Billy Joel song within like 10 minutes of each other. I thought it was great. I like this episode. That essentially wraps up the synopsis of the episode. We can just kind of talk about greater themes and stuff now if you want to.
Hmm.
One thing I want to talk about is the idea of like humanity. Like we almost need another word for it because like humanity is to be good. Like Ed says, humanity is almost thought of like it's good. You're showing your human side, which we it's like understanding and you're part of the human species. But I think there needs to be like a grander thing that extends throughout the galaxy for like just general goodness among like different species.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like so often we hear, oh, our humanity, our humanity, our humanity. But that's kind of isolating ourselves in the universe, right? It's like, well, humanity obviously is attributing to kind of like what it means to be human, but these traits aren't exclusive to humans. You know what I mean? We see compassion in a lot of different species throughout the Star Trek universe. And I mean, even in the Orville, like we've not been exposed to a whole lot of different races or species. But I mean, yeah, like you look at like some of our non-human officers, and like they obviously possess the same traits that and like the same ethics and morals and philosophies that are shared amongst the
Yeah.
Union. So yeah, it's not even about humanity. You're right. It's
Yeah,
more
like
about just
Bortus is a little
maturity.
light on the compassion side, to be fair, but like Clyden
Hmm.
seems to totally like understand what it means to like respect and treat people right. Isaac, the judge, the jury's out on that one. Isaac's learning. I think that's kind of the point where Isaac is a robot. He's like not even like technically a living being, so that's kind of like the idea behind him, and he's very much
Hmm.
our Data of the show.
Yeah, we see Isaac struggling to kind of understand human traits and things like that, which does echo into Star Trek with Seven of Nine when Captain Janeway has been trying to teach her, being disconnected from the Borg collective and everything. And again, yeah, with like Commander Data, like
Yeah,
it's just like a struggle for
yeah,
these human features or characteristics more so, but yeah, like we should obviously recognize that these are not limited to humans. Like, this is something that just comes with maturity, understanding, and
exactly.
appreciation for cultural and whatever other differences that species may share or not share. Really, the differences there.
Hmm. Another line I wanted to highlight was when Talea is going back to her people on the shuttle. She says, "Don't think that this means that things are going to be better between us and stuff like that." And then Ed says, "Defect to my species. We never give up hope." I like that. He's optimistic. Ever the optimists.
Hmm.
I like that element where it's like, hey, we have hope. You got to have a little faith sometimes. Ed took a leap of faith in letting her go back to her people, and that could pay off, or it could lead to a massive trouble for the Orville. That he could lose crew members. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, all this whole episode, like Captain Ed's been taking these, like he's been putting himself on the line. He's been trying to show and earn the trust and respect of Talea. So yeah, like when she at the end when she kind of what seems to be like shoots down his hope and says, like don't think this is going to, help the diplomacy between our species. Don't think this is going to make
Yeah,
relations any better. Um, but he doesn't look discouraged, like he has the best intentions,
yeah.
and
She
like,
says there's no hope, but she does the look back when she gets on the ship. That's
hmm
you don't look back and stare at someone you hate all the time. Sometimes you're just like, I'm leaving, I'm out of here in a huff. She looked back and just captured that image.
hmm like once the Krill vessel has come and they picked up Talea and everything, like what's keeping them from opening fire on them? I mean, I guess it is like a small like transport, but they go back to their main ship.
Yeah,
So I mean, like at that point in time, they could have opened fire if they wanted to, but they peacefully just accepted their officer back and
for all we
turned
know, they
around.
they could have thrown a tracker on the wall or hidden the tracker in there too. That'd be a cool element if
It's
they did
hard to
that later
say.
on.
Yeah, you might be able to see some
I can
neat
see
stuff.
I can
start from
see a
this
scene
episode.
where they're aboard the Krill vessel and they have Talea hears from the Krill captain like, oh yeah, we left a tracker on there, and they can show a reaction on her face of whether she feels mixed emotions about that. Like, oh, I kind of like these people, or I kind of trust the Orville of all ships. Like, I'd rather that one not get blown up if we're gonna blow up Union vessels.
Yeah, it's true. It could be used. Yeah, it could be used to, like maliciously follow them or whatever, or it could be used to, like, yeah, you say like identify them and maybe show them mercy. Hopefully, if
Yeah.
anything's getting through to the Krill in this episode, hopefully it's that we don't want to fight. Like we want to, we want a strong like galactic community.
Exactly, exactly. And one thing that I liked was when they were on the planet there, they
Mhm.
had Ed mentioned that like that it's like, oh, we watched movies together. You made me a grilled cheese or whatever. The fact that they brought up like grilled cheese, it's just I love it.
Yeah,
That
yeah. He's
no
like,
one.
oh, you made me grilled cheese. Like, what? You didn't have to do that. Why would you do that? Like,
Yeah, if you can grill someone a cheese sandwich, there's got to be at least some element of love in your heart or some
oh, there
affection.
has to be some deeper, yeah, feeling. Like, you don't just make a grill, you don't just make a grilled cheese for someone you hate.
Yeah, there'd
That's
be
going
poison
above
in
and
it if you
beyond.
did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just an uptown krill making cheeses on a grill, grilled cheese on a grill. You're lucky you just got one Billy Joel pun this episode, guys. Warning: there will be many puns ahead. We're entering a pun field, and prepare for impact.
Fair for impact indeed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, in the cave, there was a lot of Shrek One vibes. If you're a Shrek One viewer like myself, and probably most people, the scene where they're in the cave, it's almost like when Shrek is bringing Fiona back to the king, and they like hate each other, and they're talking about how much they hate each other, but underlying they kind of like each other, whether there's love or not. But they kind of do have some like love for each other. So I kind of like that. I wasn't like one for one, obviously, but I couldn't help but think of that in a second viewing.
yeah, no, that's funny. I enjoy that. I'm glad you brought that up. That's great. And I'm sure our Shrek listeners will get
Yeah.
quite a kick out of that.
Yeah, and Shrek Trek, we know that was made in the year 2025. That was a fantastic program that ran for 3 seasons, and you guys are gonna love that when it comes out.
Oh yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah, for sure. Another part is I like when they talked about how Ed and Janelle, when she was Janelle, they were watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, and she sympathized with the Nazis. I thought that was a nice touch.
Oh, I know. She's yeah. I remember the scene when they're walking after the landing and he's like kind of asking her. He's like, so like all that was fake, like blah 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 blah. And he's like, what about this movie? He's like, did you like any of them? And she's like, yeah, I like that one. And yeah, it was like Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then he's
Yeah.
like, oh, cool. And she said, what did she say? She said she was like, oh, I really like this character. And then he was like, wait, what? Like that was the Nazis. That was the bad guys.
Yeah, it's cool. It just kind of shows how differently they view the world in that, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely shows you the two different lenses that people are viewing things through.
For sure. So I think that's about it. That's pretty much all I have to say for the episode. I don't know about you.
I mean, yeah, like I guess we've already pretty much touched on most of the things that I've wanted to talk about. I guess what I'd like to say before we really like start wrapping things up here is the episode title, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like phenomenal. Okay. So it's called Nothing Left on Earth Excepting Fishes. Um,
Neither of us have
we
seen The King and I.
Yeah,
Bennett
we're
looked this
not
up.
familiar with The King and I, but we did like kind of check into it briefly there. So anyway, yeah, like this is from the film that they were watching on movie night together. And yeah, so I guess this is what it's from. It says, one will seldom want to do what others wishes, but unless someday somebody trusts somebody, there'll be nothing left on earth excepting fishes. So yeah, like if you just look at that, I don't know the events of The King and I, but I can tell you how that really speaks to this episode of The Orville.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
perfect title. It sounds wordy,
absolutely.
but when you learn the meaning, it fits perfectly.
Absolutely. Like I was confused when I first heard it. I thought it was nothing left on Earth except fishes. So I was like, oh wow, like I get it. It's like,
Yeah,
between like the two, if there's still conflict, like who knows, right? Like nothing's gonna be left. But if we can get together and get along, hopefully we can grow and really like, yeah, just grow together, right? And this is something that's very true to this episode because the Krill and the Union, obviously they've not seen eye to eye. There's a lot of reasons behind this. But yeah, like, if Ed has tried everything, he's been so merciful and respectful even to someone who's done so wrong to him. He's really just trying to be the better person in this.
yeah.
He's just trying to put differences aside because he understands that like there needs to be trust between us,
Yeah.
or neither of us are going to make it off this planet alive. And it resonates much larger than that, like the relationship with the Krill and the Union.
Mhm.
Like if we can't kind of put our differences aside, it's so hard to do what other people want. But if we can just kind of bite the bullet,
Yeah.
maybe there's going to be a bright future for us, instead of, potentially like a very large war. And
Exactly.
yeah,
He
like
doesn't
the
want a
decline.
galaxy where no one's accepting fishes. He wants people to be accepting fish, which
Fishes
is
must be the key barter system.
yes.
No, I'm sorry, but yeah.
It could be anything. Just extending a hand. We need to be able to have the dialogue open. That's why I said I'm willing to talk. Hey,
Hmm.
we can fight or we can talk. I'd rather talk. One
Absolutely.
other element I think that kind of builds on that is by going through the process to become a human. I think that method of infiltration managed to give them a link that wouldn't be there. So by becoming human, Talea has to get engrossed in that culture and learn more about humans and let it get into her mind and start thinking, hey, these guys really aren't that bad. Without that, she wouldn't have. There might not be the bridge between the Krill and the human. So in her, evil kind of plan there, it might have been the one thing that could unite the two.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good point. Yeah, no, I would agree with that very much. Like to infiltrate like like an opposing faction's vessel, and to do so with no indication that she was there. Like it was such like a very good deception, like very well
Yeah.
organized.
It sounds like it would make a
And
great James Cameron movie.
yeah, I would agree. But yeah, I mean, like she definitely does have to subject herself to humanity, and she can't be repulsed by it like she actually is. She has to really just totally put herself and immerse herself in that culture. Sorry.
That like we have Indiana Jones and of course Billy Joel is the way to peace. So people out there, that's the method. He's using Billy Joel, the greatest hits of Billy Joel. I don't think there will be any war if we just did that to if we just shared that with the world.
We'll just put some Billy Joel, the best of Billy Joel, out on some thumb drives and just send them in a ship in a bottle or a note in a bottle kind of thing.
Yeah, so should we take this one home? I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I know you had a question. We can do that if you want.
Yeah, I had two quick. Well, I was gonna ask you one of them, but you've already nailed it so many times that I know you know the answer. So
All
I
right,
have, unfortunately, since Matt's got some extensive knowledge of this episode, I can't give him too much of a trivia, but
it's
we
fun.
thought it'd
It's
be
fun.
fun. I have one question for you. All right, Matthew.
Yeah.
During
Yeah.
the unfortunate events when Lieutenant Tyler and our captain are floating off to Solaris 2 for their getaway, when the three vessels from the Krill come in and it kind of do what they do, do
Yeah.
you remember what the name,
Of the formation was. Oh.
what class of Krill ship
Ah.
these are?
Damn
Do,
it.
do, do,
I
do,
don't know.
do,
I'd say assault class
do,
vessels. I
do,
have no
do.
idea.
Bam, bam, bam. Very
No.
close. They were Marauder class
There you
vessels.
go. There you go.
Marauder. Yeah. Do.
Just one other thing. I thought you were going to ask me what kind of floss Seth MacFarlane was using on the vessel, in which case,
Oh, do you know?
no, I have it in my notes, and I actually want to bring it up because I really like I
Yeah, yeah,
like that,
that's a really funny one. You're right, yeah.
I like the Seinfeldian reference. It was almost like a moment where Seth mentions to, or Ed Mercer mentions to Janelle Tyler that he forgot his toiletries on their vacation, and it was called, what was the name of it? It was a special kind of, made of a special kind of silk. Just one sec. It was,
Hmm. Yeah, it was so funny because she's like, "Oh, why don't you just like replicate yourself some new ones?" And he's like, "No, no, I
no,
need a
it's made of
very
a
specific."
Nvidia micro silk. It fits between the tight spaces in his teeth or whatever. Which I'm hoping they're building up to a final conflict with the Krill, where they have a flossing weapon that just won't fit between his teeth, and they just knock them out or shoot them with a phaser.
Yeah,
You
but I
heard it here
agree.
first, folks. You heard it here first.
It's quite a Seinfeld moment. I can just picture Jerry, like kind of unattentively picking at his teeth. Nah, nah. I need this kind of like specific floss.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great element of humor. It's very subtle and it's really quirky. Yeah, I like it.
And just to touch on a bit some of the lyrics on "She's Always a Woman to Me," just she can kill with a smile, she can wound with her eyes, she can ruin your faith with her casual lies. Like that would kind of mess up your faith a little bit if you just fell in love with like a totally different person than you knew, like a wholly like an alien race of people just totally just mind effed you. I like
Hmm.
that. I like that.
But yeah, like I would say this was like honestly just a great episode. It really rang true with like Star Trek, like we talked about a little bit earlier. And yeah, I just think that like Seth is doing a phenomenal job with the Orville. He's really capturing that like sense of Trek fandom. I would
Yeah.
say.
Oh yeah.
He's really like hitting some timeless subjects. And yeah, like I would say like the Orville is doing phenomenal things.
If the next 12 episodes are like this, we're in for a hell of a season 2. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can only hope for something like this great.
So, anyways, we've got to get back to bridge duty. So, huge thanks to Katie for our logo. You can follow her on Instagram and see her other kick-ass pieces at artist_adrift on Instagram. And she's got another page called pyre.hfx, pyre spelled Pyre. You can see that in the show notes too if you want a direct link.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal artist, and she's been very helpful here at the Redenbacher. We just like to really give her a big thank you. And yeah, if you guys enjoy the podcast and if you enjoy the artwork, please go check her out. Her work is super cool. I'm sure you will not be disappointed. It's
Yeah,
great.
she even designed some dope-ass skateboards too if you're into that sort of thing. I think she does commissions too.
Yeah, how cool would that be? You could get your own custom deck, and you could be shredding the park and letting
Yeah.
people know where you got it.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And we want to give a special thanks to Spirit of the Wildfire for use of their song "See You There" from their latest album, Bittersweet Nothings. It's pretty kick-ass if you ask me. Go check them out on Bandcamp at sotw.bandcamp.com if you want to buy their albums.
Yeah, get out there, show them some love. They're also on Spotify if you guys want to check them out there as well.
Yep.
Yeah, phenomenal guys, great artists, and very supportive of this podcast. Thank you very much to Spirit of the Wildfire.
Yeah, we went to high school with them, so we know them pretty well. But this their latest album is a freaking jam. That's
Quite the banger.
yeah,
Quite the
Spirit
banger.
of the Wildfire. Wildfire is one word. If you have any questions, send them to the USS Redenbacher at gmail.com, and you might hear it on the show. And that's all one word, USS Redenbacher at gmail.com.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys, so please drop us a line. And yeah, if we'd love to write back to you, or you can hear it on the podcast maybe if you're the lucky people.
Yes. Yeah, because we know we're just going to have a full email box for sure. I expect it.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. From the Purunga sector, this is Bleeding Gums Murphy for Commander Bullerwell, signing off.